What didn't surprise us? What did we see where we just we called it, we knew it? For me, it's I think it didn't surprise Jake Rowe or myself that Team Palmer and Team Roos had some struggles on their roster.
Dude, we had some too. We lost Smile Munden for the game even started.
You lost Bear Alexander.
And we lost Smile Munden for Alexander.
And
they lost
Branson Robinson personally.
Yeah, they lost Branson Robinson right to start with. But I mean, they had a couple touchdowns from Arian Smith. We had a couple touchdowns from Brock Vandegrift.
We had a touchdown from Raylan Wilson.
Yeah, was Raylan Wilson on your squad?
He was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Okay. We had the better quarterback.
We got better score. We got 2 scores out of him. We also got a pick out of Tyke Smith.
You also threw that pick.
It's a wash. It's a wash.
We also got a sack.
You threw that pick, Jake Rowe.
We're calling that a push.
We got a sack out of Christian Miller and Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. So
I'll tell you what. Now I mentioned this on the.
Did we have Damon Wilson?
No, I don't know that he got.
I pushed for him.
No, Darius Smith and.
But you said
this went from a team game to now Wes is every man for himself.
Yeah, I wanted him on our athlete spot, and you said no. So I want that to be stated for the record.
Kristen Miller, I will say, to get back to skip back a little bit. Kristen Miller, a guy I'm excited for, man, because I didn't feel like we heard much about him last year, and it was great to see him perform in G-Day. Here's some things about him this spring. He's a great presence, and if you're looking for like an heir to the Nolan throne in terms of motivator, in terms of personality, I think Kristen Miller could be that guy for Georgia.
Well, I mean, he's a locker room guy. I mean, it's exactly what those, exactly what Nolan was. Somebody that's very likable in that locker room. You constantly are seeing him on the social media because he's just joyful.
Yep.
Man, I went to his signing day ceremony when I was probably 2 weeks into working at DawgsHQ, and I didn't really know much about him, but Jake Roos and I were kind of divvying up, figuring out how we were going to do things. Roos was heading out to see Andrew Paul because he just is a bloodhound for the surprising news of the day. And we decided that I should go out and see Kristen Miller. And he was, man, that was a jolt. That was fun. That was one of the more entertaining, exciting signing days I've been to. And that doesn't mean he was going to piece it together as a player, but I just kind of realized, man, if this guy can play, if he can be a baller, that attitude will carry himself a long way in this Georgia locker room. So,
well, and I'll tell y'all this, I'm going to write on him tomorrow because I think with the Bear Alexander departure, there becomes a huge opportunity for Kristen Miller. Jordan Hall is another guy that was, fit into what Roos talked about earlier. Not too surprising that those young defensive talented, players were outstanding. I mean, Damon Wilson, Jordan Hall, Raylan Wilson, CJ Allen. I mean, the top 4 tacklers plus 2 guys that were tied for 5th place in tackling on the red team were all early enrollees. So going back to Kristen, though, there's a huge opportunity for him now that there's an open spot on that interior defensive line. The numbers, they've lost 2 guys from that interior this spring, with Sean Washington leaving earlier as well. There's the numbers are getting thin there quickly. It's not a concern, and this is another discussion that was being had on the board. It's not a concern because they've recruited well and because they've got some experienced players there with Zion Logue, Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson. It's not a concern because you've got those guys, but they need to address that in this recruiting class. No question. And it was already going to be something that was going to be addressed in this recruiting class.
Well, they went super light last year. I mean, 2 guys on that defensive front last year. And so you knew it was going to be a big class. I think it's already up. And I think also, too, I think, Jake, you mentioned on the board, potential place that they look at the transfer.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if it's the right guy, they will. And now the class before that's looking light because they lost 2 of the 4 that they got there. in Washington and Bear Alexander.
One
So
and
that's-
one of the edge guy.
Yeah, you're looking at two defensive linemen per class there, the last two classes. So they'll fill it how they have to fill it, and you got to kind of trust them to do the roster the right way, because that's just kind of how they do it. The good news is that Tramel Wildfire is the only guy that has to leave after this season. God knows they can't keep him around for like a 25th year. He has to retire at some point.
Stetson did it. Stetson's dead for 27.
Dude, Tramel, I believe Tramel came in before I got in the business.
He's collecting a pension.
Yeah, he's been around for a while. He's got some teacher retirement system money hanging around there. But Malik, my man Malik Savage over here in the comments was getting after it with a couple comments. One, he talked about Tyke Smith and making an impact. We got to keep an eye on keep in mind on Tyke Smith, torn ACL in his first year, 2021. Coming back from that injury last year, still made an impact, but probably wasn't 100%. Wore a brace all year. Looked really good in that spring game with that interception. And I think him coming on is a big reason why Javon Bullard, and we wrote about that earlier today. Listen, Javon Bullard's comments about playing safety don't sound like Kirby Smart's comments. Kirby says, well, we're moving this and we're trying to create depth. Javon Bullard says he was approached about a position change. Sounds like Javon Bullard is going to be the strong safety, at least for right now. Somebody's going to have to come up and take that strong safety position. I think a lot of that's got to do with how Tyke Smith has looked at Star. And then I mentioned Ra Thomas. Listen, I don't know this for a fact. Sounds like Ra Thomas's situation is just dating back to everything he had go on in his previous deal, and that he got suspended for the spring game is what it sounds to me like. Now, there could be more there, but he was out there. He was dressed out with the team. He was I saw him in pregame warm-up. I just think that he was just not allowed to play in that game because of the stuff he got into there with the preseason with the domestic issue, and it got handled legally. But I think Georgia wanted to kind of, send a message there with that one. If you want to talk about what didn't surprise, I wasn't surprised by Carson Beck playing well. The whole quarterback thing, guys, I feel like some outlets, some of our colleagues, I think some folks got a little wrapped up in excitement and got the cart ahead of the horse. Okay. There was a stretch there in the middle of spring here where Brock Vandegrift played really well. And he had come a long way, and he deserved every bit of praise he got. But I think some folks got too fired up about it, and it was like, oh, Brock's getting ready. Brock's getting ready to make his move. He's getting ready to make the pass. He's stealing reps. We told you that was not the case. Yes, he looked good, but he had to keep looking good. He's got to keep this thing going. Well, Carson Beck put the punctuation on spring that he really needed to put on the spring is in the one scrimmage that the offense got the better of the defense. He was the one who stole the show, and he was the offensive MVP of G-Day because he played so well. He really did. Now, he wasn't perfect, and I wouldn't say he was even close to it. I mean, he had probably 3 throws that he probably should have made that would have made his day look a lot better. But with the first team offense, 13 of 18, 221 and a touchdown, that's something to chew on. I mean, that's good stuff. And I'm not surprised he played well.
How many G-Days have we seen the guy that we either know to be the starting quarterback or we expect to be the starting quarterback go out there and have an underwhelming day, whether it's because the coaches held him back or that was what everyone said happened, or he just knows he's the guy and he didn't really feel like he had too much to prove.
I mean, a lot of people came out of last year's G-Day thinking that Carson Beck had a better day.
Yeah.
No
question.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's the starting quarterback, the number one guy rarely looks great at G-Day. I can't recall too many. I remember Zach Mettenberger looking so much better than Aaron Murray did in the 2010 G-Day game.
Mm-hmm.
Now Met was eventually suspended or, dismissed from the team for some off-field issues before it ever got there. But he looked better than Aaron Murray, even though most people thought Aaron Murray was going to be the starter and Aaron Murray was probably going to be the starter. But yeah, I mean,
I don't know what the situation was there with Mettenberger and Murray and how those reps were divided there. But a lot of the times majority of the times we're seeing the starting quarterback go up against the starting defense. And then that second string quarterback is going up against a defense full of guys that have been on campus for a matter of weeks now. I mean, there's a reason why there were so many early enrollees.
That's why it's great that they switch them up at halftime. Because
and I did think that was important. And then we saw Brock did not play nearly as well with the first team as he did the second team.
I mean, and I didn't think he played all that well or got into a rhythm with either team. I did think it was kind of funny, though, that Carson Beck was so much better with the first team than he was with the second team. He got a lot more opportunities as well.
He only had one drive with the second team. He completed 2 of 4 passes for 20 or 30 yards.
Yeah, and your boy Tyler Williams, that was, I think, his only catch of the day. Caught a little quick slant there. That was something, if we want to get back to a tiny little surprise real quick, the quick slant seems to have come back to Georgia, at least for the spring game. I've been wondering, hey, man, why didn't Georgia take these and run these man beaters? Well, you got Jackson Meeks there,
Meeks, they just carried him to the end zone.
And then carrying everybody into the end zone, right. I thought he actually had a really good day because he toasted A.J. Harris on a play that could have been a touchdown and didn't get completed to him. But then Tyler Williams comes back with a quick slant. They throw a couple more. I think that's something that would be a really nice addition to the Georgia offense with all of the guys that they can get to kind of win routes.
Did Jackson Meeks draw 2 pass interference penalties?
I don't recall. I only really remember the one, and I don't even think that one was – he was open. I don't necessarily think that was a legit pass interference penalty, though. I mean, that ball was very uncatchable. But
that was early in the game, right?
Yeah, it was. Yes, I believe it was the first drive for the 2 offense.
Right.
For the team.
Did he not draw one on that last drive?
Very well. Dude, I was trying to finish a gamer.
That is fair.
Let's be real.
I was trying. You know how it was, Palmer. We were scrambling for photos, man.
Yeah, that was tough to find. Had the comment up earlier.
Meeks drew one on Julian Humphrey on the last drive. I was genuinely just asking.
Yeah.
I had the comment up earlier about Brock Bowers from Tomahawk Dog. This is what didn't surprise me.
I got to go find this interview because
Brock could not have been, I don't want to say less interested because that conveys a sense that he was just rude and bored and wanted to get out of there, but he could not have been less interested.
Hey, I need to tell my man Matthew
after the game.
I got to tell my man Matthew C something. Hey, Matthew C, Mike Bobo called the plays for the first team offense, and that was it. He wasn't even calling the plays for the second team offense. So
who was that like a celebrity?
I believe it was Del McGee or somebody like that. But Bobo
was on that staff. So.
Yeah, Del was on that staff. So they definitely weren't in Bobo's pocket with the black team getting the love there. That would have been with the black team getting the love. That would have been Muschamp and Schumann, or maybe one or the other.
Man, how about that picture of Kirby and Schumann and Muschamp walking out together? I don't know who took it. Have y'all seen it floating around?
Yeah, I believe that was. I believe Brooks Austin took it.
Brooks took it. All right. Well, that was a good snap from Brooks because that is that's like that looks like an album cover.
Yeah.